So the title of my presentation, Experimental Textile Art, from Practical Objects to Form of Artistic Expression. And actually I will start from the history of Finnish textiles, because it's all our textile artworks are grounded on history very strongly. So in Finland we have a long tradition in weaving. Weaving has been the technique which every woman has been able to use while producing all textiles needed in everyday life. Bed linens, tablecloths, textiles needed for clothing and so on. One very special textile in our history is ryijy, which is a good example of the transformation of the use context. The name ryijy originated with the Scandinavian word ryja, which means thick cloth. The decorative ryijyrak is nowadays an art form unique to Finland. Ryijys date from as early as the 9th century. Similar in nature to a knotted Persian carpet, the ryijy knots are further apart and are much longer and larger and longer. Originally, this textile was used as a coverlets and beddings. Curiously, they were used the wrong side out, leaving the nap side next to the body, and that's of course because of our cold winter, and this was very warm textile to sleep under. And the first ryijys were mainly natural colors, white, grey and black, and some tones of yellow, red, green and blue were introduced with vegetable dyes. Later, aniline dyes added another dimension of color and design. As indicated, the earliest long-piled rugs were monochromatic and devoid of any symbolism. By the end of the 16th century, other more readily wash-able and change-able bed coverings became the vogue among the upper classes, while the commoners enjoyed the cozy and comfortable ryijy far into the following centuries. The use of colors and pattern is especially unique to the Finnish ryijy. Dating back to the 1700s, a ryijy was often used as a prayer rug during wedding ceremonies. The tapestry was then after wedding hung for display in the couple's home. In the late 1900s, ryijy rug weaving developed as a folk art. Some of most beautiful tapestries were woven during this period. Ryijy weavers traveled with their looms throughout the villages and towns, getting commissions to weave a ryijy for special occasions. Different regions had designs specific to the event and colors specific to the local plants or dyes. Designs were often geometric shapes and flowers or figures of humans, animals or birds. A very typical motif was the tree of life, signifying family heritage. All artistic expression, however, has had influencing factor. Symbols appearing on ryijy represent a variety of sources. Some have heraldic references, while others might derive from mystical, magical and religious codes. Our Nordic neighbors believed Finns possessed magical powers. The ancient word for magic was fingerd, meaning a Finnish word. Symbolic motifs include flowers, hearts, trees, triangles, representing Holy Trinity, hourglasses, crosses, crowns, animals, humans, leaves, palmettos, colors, and many more. Samplers and important silks were other source of inspiration. Some designs have multiple interpretations, and occasionally symbols were combined into innovative hybrid images. Through time, specific meanings undoubtedly degenerated, yet conventionalized symbols continued to forwards as abstract design elements. Then around 1901, an important renaissance of Finnish ryijy rug making radically challenged centuries of tradition. It was a jump started when nationally recognized artists and architects like Akseli Kallen-Kallela and Elian Saarinen began creating modern designs specifically for the ryijy textiles. Interestingly, both collected historical ryus, and Saarinen's wife was a weaver. Newly inspired pictorial ornamentation quickly replaced centuries-old geometrical patterns with natural imaginary. These rugs were specifically designed as wall art. Typically, new ryus were woven with long decorative fringe on the bottom end. Since those days, ryu has become to be an important piece of textile art. Today, ryu making techniques include new fibers. Let's go first this older ryus. So this is 1950s, for example, very modern and geometrical style. And today, ryu making techniques include new fibers such as paper string, available in hundreds of colors, as is the traditional wool, and also modern light fibers are used. They are designed for multiple of places and purposes, but each is an individual work of art. So some example of the new modern contemporary ryu. So some artists are still continuing this long ryu tradition, and here are some examples. For example, Touko Issakainen, quite new works. And Touko Issakainen questions the traditional art ryu by breaking the rules of composition. He says that he approaches ryu through its tradition, and for him, the simplest elements, even one color composition, are the most interesting ones, and that is why he has left all the geometrical elements away from his work. And this is really interesting. He is also a male artist working in this very female field. Through weaving the ryu by using different lengths yarn, he creates strong, deep illusion into his works. He also works without pre-planning, sketching, and the whole work is a process, playing with different elements, colors, and even adding found objects into the ryu textiles. And here is one example, Johanna Vuorinen ryu juhlat, which are included with optical fibers into the ryu textiles. A more experimental piece of ryu. Here are some examples of students' works from Textile Art and Design degree program at the University of Art and Design Helsinki. And the works are realized together with Friends of Finnish Handicraft. And they organized together with the university's ryu project in spring 2009. The aim was to research the history and features of ryu and offer an alternative view to ryu tradition today and in the future. An international student group studied the structures, materials, and visual details on the ryu, and on the basis, 9 independent views were presented. Focus was on the pile, materials, patterns, and concepts. None of the works present the traditional ryu, but traditional of ryu offered a fruitful source of ideas. And the results are interesting, modern, and based on contemporary artist expression, leaning on traditional textile of ryu. Here are, for example of one student's work, which he uses these recycled leather jackets to produce a unique piece of textile art. So these contemporary ryus use new technologies such as laser cutting and pre-approach the field of textile art. Also, materials used in these modern experimental ryus break the tradition. Paper, leftover materials, leather, and so on can be used to develop new approach and artistic intention implemented in these ryus by young artists. And here's also paper ryus from this project. And then I will talk more about this contemporary textile art in the 21st century. And I will show you some photos from the Textile Artists and Designers Association TEXO 50 years of anniversary exhibition in Finland 2006, and that was organized in Amos Anderson Art Museum in Helsinki, which is a very highly respected museum. So I think that also tells about something about the society's textile artist situation in our society, so it's rather highly respected. So the title of this exhibition was Hands and All, and it was a metaphor for what textile art is today. Hands are associated with both the tradition and the contemporary in textile art, and handicraft and manual skill are concepts that in the field of fine arts are not appreciated, but these skills are the base where textile artists lean their work and aesthetic discourse. In textile art, everything is founded on ancient skills, which for a long time have been subjected to more than just simply variations. Here are, for example, examples of artist Heli Tuoriluutonen, her works, and this extremely slow tapestry weaving techniques. So, without learned and polished technical skills, artistic talent cannot emerge. Not to mention individual freedom, artistic expression, and artistic intention. The form and content of textile art is constantly changing. The styles and attitudes seen in the works in this exhibition were many. In general, there is a strong desire to cast off heavy tradition and make art in a personal way. There is also an interest of refinement and traditional techniques. In this exhibition, many of the works explored memories that are concretely or symbolically associated with textiles. For example, here's one artist working of the family memories of her mother and grandmother. And this work you already saw in Mari's presentation. And Virpi Vesanen also works with the themes of women's role in our society. And that's rather common theme in contemporary artist works nowadays in Finland. And here is Ulla Pohjola's work, and Ulla works with the embroidery techniques and also commenting woman's life. And I think that she used these embroidery techniques nearly like a painter on a canvas. And other artists working on embroidery techniques is Riitta-Liisa Haavisto, and really skillful techniques of using embroidery. Here are also Riitta-Liisa's works. So, more experimental way in textile art is the use of found objects. For example, Johanna Suompää uses leftover materials, objects, and gives them new meanings by using them as a part of artwork in an art context. She says that her works are as constructions where the surprising pieces which do not fit together are forced to be together. Through this approach, she communicates with the modern environment where she is living, and the result is contemporary aesthetics. So there are actually all these kind of found objects from her daily living. A more conceptual way of doing artworks. Here is one example of Riitta Forsman's work. Jysky is the name of the work. And actually Jysky was her dog, and the work is based on the balls that Jysky has been bringing to home in period 1987 and 2000, which is actually the lifetime of that dog. The work is a homage, honor for her dog. Through this work, she is also thinking of our material world and our connection to increasing materials and objects in our homes. What is necessity? Do we need all this stuff around us? And why do we keep all these memories? Why do we want to treasure all these strange objects? Also, Lena Lukkarinen's work with the leftover materials recycling is her approach to textile art. She uses old textiles to create new composition of them. Old textiles work as historical memory. They represent stories of the users and moreover cultural history which already has disappeared in Finland. So she actually collects all these kind of old pieces like fabric handkerchiefs which actually are not anymore used in Finland, and then creates a new art piece from this leftover and old textile material. So in that way she is also including textile history in her works. Okay, and then more experimental work. This is Nina Ruokonen Pedetrician, which is huge, giant doctoral coat, and so Nina Ruokonen has been thinking about the children when the child is coming to doctoral, seeing a doctor, the feeling that the fear inside the child when the child sees this huge doctor, but then this playful elements, this print on this coat that it's not so dangerous. And then Maju Ahlgren's work Whispering, and Maju Ahlgren has been many years already working for this kind of hospital environments, making arts for hospital environments, and this work is targeted for psychiatric ward, so it's this kind of environment and community art work. And there the textile is present only in the photos. There's not physical textile anymore, it's only photos from the textiles. But as you can see, it's the pillows and the human remarks on those pillows, so it represents rather strongly that somebody's present in these photos. Aino Käijäniemi is using this traditional tapestry weaving, creating really nice works, and this is named Balance. Raija Jokinen's work, Raija is mainly working with the paper, different kind of paper materials. This is Figures, the name of the work, and it represents human life, different part of human life. Mervi Vuola's work, the title is I Knit in the Evenings, and it symbolizes woman's life. She's really busy working with her teaching work, but also she's a mother of several children, so she don't have really time for her own artwork. So then she knits in the evening after the children has gone to bed. So this is this kind of therapeutic way of seeing that I'm still an artist, while I'm not have so much time to realize my artistic side. But this is really nice piece of the work that still I'm an artist. And my final slide is actually Maisa Tikkanen's, and the title of the work is Ants of Our Lord. And it's really interesting, small piece of work, and Maisa has been collecting all this kind of leftover materials, so for example lust from her home and dropped hair and that kind of not so nice material, but then she has been collecting them several months and creating a small textile or art piece of those, this kind of interesting composition. And I think that the name Ants of Our Lord symbolizes somehow also women who very often do this kind of work that are not so well seen, for example in home environment. Okay, that was all. Thank you for your attention. Thanks.